If you have a burning question on your mind, just write it down. And then when we get to a breaking point, I will let you ask any of these questions, because there will be lots of questions come up, but I want to be able to get through the information coherently, smoothly. So if you would just wait and just give me time, I probably will cover most of your questions. So just wait until I get to a breaking point. That way you get through all the information uninterrupted, okay? Is that a deal?
Yeah.
Yes? Yeah. All right. So I actually just learned this information a few weeks ago, probably 3.5, 4 weeks ago. And Holy Spirit was so strong to put this forward. I just said yes. You know, what do? You just have to say yes. So I did a practice class because I had set up an Ohio Assembly meeting on Thursday. So I did a practice class, and then within 24 hours, I had over 35 RSVPs for a practice class. I recorded that. It's in a Zoom link, and all the folder that I have created for this class you will have access to, with all the forms you need, with all the information you need. So I've got you covered. This should be very, very simple process. What this does, you will be amazed at how many possibilities that this information could transform our world really quick. So you'll see why I'm so excited as I go along. But my background, I'm a healer and teacher. I teach healing classes, and I've been, a medical massage therapist for a long time. I've been treating people for over 20 years now. So when we got locked down, I didn't lose my job. I just did more long-distance healing. Long-distance healing works like prayer. We're all connected to God. So I just want to let you know that's my background. This is totally outside of my realm. If you would have told me I was going to be teaching about IRS forms and law a couple years ago, I would have thought you are nuts. But here I am. So, all right. So when I started studying to teach this the first time, I was asked to come to a church and talk about just regular law stuff and, our language and kind of some of the successes I've had, because I've helped people get out of court cases. And I was here a couple of weeks ago, and I just showed up at the last minute, no makeup, hair back. I just showed up because I felt like I needed to be here. And then all of a sudden, here I am 2 weeks later, right? So God moves us where we need to be. And the more faith you have, the more opportunities come. So this verse, Titus 1:7-9, was the verse that came the first time I was praying, asking God, what is the message, along with all this other stuff. And it says, for the overseer must be beyond approach as God's steward. We are all God's steward. The church is God's stewards. We are the trustees of his land. So not self-willed, not quick-tempered, not overindulging in wine, not a bully, not greedy for money, but hospitable, loving what is good, self-controlled, righteous, holy, disciplined, holding firmly to the trustworthy message as it has been taught, so that he can encourage others by sound doctrine and refute those who oppose it. So this verse was pretty much the sum it up verse for me. Because we are the stewards that have to take control of the land. We have to, oppose those who refute God's law. God's law is the law we're under, the Ecclesiastes law. Not this corporation laws that they try to put on us. And we are confused as the people. 1% of the people know that some of the laws that we're actually under. And most people don't actually understand the difference. So how many people here knows what the Sesta KV Act of 1666 was? Anybody know anything about the Sesta KV Act of 1666 or the Sesta KV Trust Fund? Nobody knows about that? A little bit.
Yes.
All right, she does. So when you're born, your mom or dad usually fills out a birth certificate for you, right? That birth certificate is taken to the registrar, and about 9 to 11 days afterwards, you're recorded in the registry at your state, at the capital of your state. They create a corporation in your name in all capital letters. Okay? It is not you. It's an all capital name corporation. That corporation is then funded by the Sesta KV Act of 1666, and you get $1.5 million from your mom and $1.5 million from your dad's seeded money from their trust funds to start yours. Over the next 2 years, at least $300,000 is added. And every time your parents apply or register you as a child in daycare or school or health department, or any time they give your information or birth certificate or social security number, they're giving access to those companies and corporations to use your trust fund money on your behalf. Now, we are the beneficiaries of all those millions of dollars, but we're not allowed to access it directly. We have to go through different companies. If we give our social, they are allowed to access for us on our behalf, but we are the beneficiary of the money. We just can't access it directly. Does all that make sense?
Yeah.
No, how do you know it? How do you know what you just said?
You look up the SESTA-KB Act of 1666, the history, and what you will see, what I'm saying, will start making sense more and more.
So you can go.
Yeah, we're gonna hold questions, remember, because I want to get through this and I want to make sure that I cover everything and I don't want you to miss out on anything, okay? So this SESTA-KB Act of 1666 is what you need to look up if you want to learn about this. But we all have abundance. God's abundance belongs to us originally. And they have set us apart and put these corporation names. Every bill that you get, your driver's license, your social security card, is all capital letters. Capital letters are what they put on tombstones for dead people, right? This is stuff that I know I can tell you guys haven't even heard anything about. So, okay, brand new information. Just follow with me, stay with me. Every time that you go apply for a bank account or a loan, or anytime you register anything, they're going to ask you for your social, and then when they fill out your information in their computer, they're going to put all capital name. And if you get summoned to court for any reason, they're summoning you, because the word summons means seance. It means to summons the dead. They bring the dead man to court, and that's why you have to have a representative, because you can't represent yourself if you're dead. It's the all capital name that they're calling to court. And if you tell the judge, yeah, that's me, are you such and such? And you say yes, you're claiming to be that dead man. That's how they get you. Because in court, all courts are banks. The judge is a banker. All of the attorneys are banking agents. They take your case, and it is a collection. So they put a tax on every court case. If you pay the taxes on that case, it goes away. You, the dead man, are the security. They want that bond. They want the money. So court cases have, I mean, when you look at this and you pull back and you zoom out and you see what's really going on, at first it's like, that's crazy. And then you're like, that's not fair. And then it's like, this is not right. We have to teach people the truth. I got some faces back there like, what is going on? Just stay with me. Okay, so I have this slide on the screen. It says intelligent evaluation. You are not obligated to believe anything I tell you. In fact, I don't want you to. Go do your own research. Never swallow information blindly. That's what's wrong with our world today. If you trust what anything coming out of anybody's mouth and swallow it blindly, you will be misled. Even in the groups that I follow, when I ask for a state code or some, legal USC codes, and someone gives me an answer, I still look at their answer and go look it up for myself. If I haven't, I would have filled out some of my forms wrong. You can't trust anything blindly, even what I say, okay? So do your research. Everything that you do, and far as seeking the truth, you will find it if you look. So I am going to put a disclaimer in case this is on any kind of YouTube or on the internet. This is for education, entertainment purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not an attorney. Do your own research. Now, when information is being shared from a teacher to an audience, the information itself is energy that is transferred from a teacher to the student. If you cross your arms, you're actually shutting yourself down, and it's not as easy for you to remember the information and retain it. So I'm just going to ask you not to cross your arms while I'm teaching, unless you really want to reject it and don't want to remember it, and then cross your arms, that's fine. But you know, when you're uncomfortable in a situation, you usually cross your arms. It's because it shuts down and protects your energy field. A lot of things we do without actually having the consciousness behind it, but I'm just explaining a few things just to help you out. So, there's this W-4 process. Online they call it the W-4 sandwich. Okay? It involves 3 IRS forms and a cover letter. We have the W-4, which is actually just a withholding form. So if you go and you're applying for a job and you're filling out the paperwork because you're going to be an employee of an employer, they will give you a W-2 or a W-4. And then on this form, there's a place where you can withhold. You can ask them to withhold money from your check so that you can get it back at the end of the year. Everybody know that or can follow that? Okay. So that W-4 is just a withholding form. And every company that you give your social security number to is treating you like an employee. They fill out the paperwork. They can take money from your account. So, for example, if you call and you ask for electric to be hooked up at your new place, what do they ask you over the phone?
What's my social security number?
What's your social security number? Now, did you sign a contract or did you just call over the phone and get it turned on?
Over the phone.
Isn't that interesting? No contract. Does anybody know contract law? Without a contract, 2 wet ink signatures, there is no agreement between you and any company. You just offer your social security number to the company and they turn it on, and they're so happy to do that because they can withdraw money from your Cesta KB trust fund behind your back. So when you get your mail and you get a bill, which is called a statement, and then at the bottom of it, it has a perforated line. It says, please include this coupon with your bill. What is that coupon? If you look at it, it's always written in a positive form. It never says minus $150 for this month's electricity. It says positive $150 for electricity this month. So when you send that coupon in the mail with your payment, they're going to take that coupon, which if you look on the bottom of that coupon, there's routing numbers. It is a check. They deposit that, because it's all positive numbers, with the routing number on the bottom, and you've signed it, or you've at least filled it in saying, yes, $150. And then you send your payment, so they're taking twice and depositing that money. They're taking it out of your Cesta KB trust fund behind your back. Now, they also get dividends. They also do tax assessments. All these companies get away with it because who knows this information?
Nobody.
No, we don't until you learn it. And then when you learn it, it's maddening. It's like, how has this been happening for so long and we just let it happen? We are all slaves to the system until you realize with your real eyes and you pull yourself away from it, or you hold these companies and corporations accountable, which is what I'm here to teach you to do today. So the W-4 is a withholding. They have been able to access our trust funds behind our back, but if we use the form and we send it to the IRS and we say, hey, I want you to assess this and audit my account with this corporation or this company, the IRS says, sure, we'll do that. We'll do that for a 13% fee to assess and audit your account, and if there's money owed to you, we'll send it back to you. How much money do you think that has been stolen from one utility bill if you've had electric for 20 years? If they've double dipped from your coupon and your payment, and all these utilities were set up to be paid by your Cesta KB trust fund from the Secretary of State to sign off on it ever since we've had electricity. They literally changed the verbiage because our taxes have already paid for the structure, have already paid for the infrastructure of all the lines and all the, set up to make that go to your house. They charge you for an import and an export from your house. All the equipment mechanism is in place. And our trust fund is set up to pay our bills. We just didn't know that until now. So on this W-4 form, I have given you all packets. It has those 3 forms, and then I'm going to give you access to a Dropbox link. You'll have to download a Dropbox app to your computer or your phone. And in that Dropbox, it will have all the forms you need. It will have these forms that are highlighted so you don't fill out any sections that's not highlighted. And there's examples of them filled out too. So you have 3 of each form in that Dropbox. You have a blank that you can print. It's a 2021 year because we want to audit and assess up till the year 2021. If you were to use a brand new form, the 2022, they would wait till the end of this year before they'd start auditing and assessing. Then you would be 9 months out before you get any recoupment because they're going to wait till this year's over. So we want to use the 2021 year, which is the one I put in your Dropbox folder. And you're going to have the blanks to print. You're going to have the highlighted ones that you can print and just look at and say, okay, don't fill that out. Fill this section out. You'll know exactly which ones to fill out. And there's examples you can print as well. So on this form, the only thing you need to remember is when you put your first and middle name, it has to be your full middle name. Whatever is printed on your Social Security card, that's what you're going to put on this form. You don't want to just put an initial on any of these forms. You want your full middle name, okay? So every time I ask for first name and middle name, and I actually did mark out and put full middle name. So if you pay attention to my notes in the Dropbox, you should have no problem. Then you're going to do your last name, Social Security number, address, city, state, zip, and then you're going to just pick how you file taxes, if you file taxes, because it is a voluntary system. Single, married, or head of household. And then you go down here, and we're going to talk about the lines down here. So this 4C, if you want to get your paperwork out, it's in your folders. On 4C is that line that you're going to ask them to withhold this much from this company. Okay, for example, if you assess and audit your Ohio BMV driver's license as your first audit account, you can either leave this blank because you have no idea how many speeding tickets, parking tickets over your lifetime since you were 16 years old. You have no idea unless you really kept good records, okay? If you have, then you can assess and you know exactly what has been taken on that license, then you can do that. I suggest most of these forms, you just leave it blank and let them do the audit. Because I'm going to tell you something that might be a little exciting. When you apply for a driver's license or a permit and you give your social, you know how much they take out first? $11.2 million insurance policy for the state out of your trust fund. Yes, it has way more than $11.2 million in it. Because every time you apply, you're creating more debt. Every time you apply for a loan, apply for a mortgage, apply for a loan, you're creating debt out of thin air. They print the money and they add it to your Cesta KV trust, and then they loan you the money, and then they ask you to pay it back with interest. So you're constantly increasing your fund the more debt that you create. Every time you sign up for a school, you get a school number. Everything's 9 digits. That is an account number that's hooked to your trust fund. So every time you apply, you're begging for benefits. You're begging them to let you have your money from your Cesta KV trust fund. Every time you register something, you give it away. You register your vehicle with the BMV, you're giving them permission to search it, impound it, tow it, fine it, because they own it. You register it, you give it away. That's how they can do anything they want to it. If you don't have tags on your car, they don't know whose vehicle that belongs to. They can't run your tags if there's no tags on it. That's one way that they tag us so they can do what they want and control us. It is not illegal to drive without a license or a registration tag. You just have to learn how to speak. We are travelers. We have access to the roadways. We're allowed to travel on the roadways. If you're driving in commerce, if you're driving for a delivery company, you have to have a license, a commerce license, a commercial license. Otherwise, we don't have to have a driver's license. Now, have I surrendered my driver's license? No. Because you know how many times on applications they ask for your driver's license number? A lot, right? Because that plugs us into the system. The voter registration and the driver's license are the 2 things that plug us into the system the most. So I did take my tag off of my car in January once I realized this and wasn't scared anymore to do it. And I have not had any problems. I don't suggest you do that until you learn how to speak and you know the law. the real law, not commercial law, not constitutional law that the corporations are held by or held to. We are under God's law. Just like the sister prayed and said, the King of Kings. Who's he the King of Kings of? Who are those kings? That's us. We are all created equal. We are the kings and queens under God, under God's law. So when you learn this stuff, the truth will
Set you free.
set you free. That's right. So this W-4 form, you can leave that blank, that withholding, and then underneath, it used to have exempt written there, and you could check it, but they update the forms. They don't want you to use that anymore. We're going to write it in, because these forms, they're ours. They're printable from the IRS, and you can just write exempt under 4C, because we're going to be exempt from this money that they're going to give us back. Now, like I said, you can change and alter these forms if you want, because there are forms to edit. Underneath that, when it says step 5, sign here, there's a perjury. Under penalty of perjury, I declare that this blah, 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 blah. That statement, you can white it out. Just white it out. You're not going to sign under any penalty of perjury. You're going to sign your name with your autograph. Now, your autograph is, you can put BY, like by, that separates yourself. This is done by, colon, your first name, hyphen, your middle name, colon, because you're going to separate yourself from your surname, then your last name, and then period, comma, beneficiary. Because this is showing the IRS that you know that you're not the straw man anymore. You're not that all capital name any longer. You are a live, living woman or man. And when you sign as the beneficiary of that name, you're separating yourself from that corporation that they have created 9 or 10 days after you were born.
Can you say that again?
You are going to separate yourself from that all capital name by signing your autograph, not signature. Autograph is different. You're going to put by, colon, your first name, hyphen, your middle name, colon, your last name, period, comma, and then spell out the word beneficiary. Some people like to put Benny, B-E-N-E, just as beneficiary. Because you are the beneficiary of that trust fund. That's yours. But you're not the all capital name. You're not the corporation. It's just an entity set up, a fictional entity set up in your name. Just like these corporations that take people to court. Say Verizon takes you to court. How can Verizon speak? You're supposed to be able to speak to your claimant. If someone's making a claim against you, you owe $3,000 for a Verizon bill. Verizon takes you to court. Judge, who's the claimant? Verizon. Let me speak to Verizon, and I can handle this matter privately. If there's no claimant, there is no claim. It's the one loophole in courts that people don't use and don't know about. If there's no claimant, which is most court cases, because it's a corporation, it's a fictional idea, a name that's been created to shield somebody else from all liability. Who can speak for that fictional idea? And if you are claiming to be a dead man, it's just a dead man against a dead man, or a dead corporation against a dead corporation. So I do have a script to go to court with. It's to keep you in a constitutional jurisdiction, not allowing them to pull you into their jurisdiction. And so when you go to court, if they ask you, hey, Felisha Marie Beverly, you're next on the list, the first thing you say is, I am the beneficiary only of that name, and I'm here by special appearance. Those are the magic words. I'm here by special appearance, and I'm only the beneficiary of that name. You're already separating yourself and saying, that's not me. Does that make sense? Okay, so when you autograph this, you're going to do what I just said, the bicolon. That's actually proper syntax grammar. That's why you use the colons and the periods and the hyphens, because you want it all together. You'll have to look up syntax grammar language if you want. I'm sorry, I know this is not...
Question. You said white out What are we waiting on?
I say white out the perjury statement, which is above the
Okay.
sign line. It says under penalties of perjury, I declare that this certificate to the best of my knowledge and belief is true, correct, and complete. If you white that out, over your beneficiary name, your autograph, you can put done in good faith, without prejudice, all rights reserved. It's just a way to cover you and make sure that you're only giving your autograph for this form only, and they can't take you in any other capacity for any other reason.
What was it again?
Done in good faith, without prejudice, all rights reserved. Now, all of these things I'm telling you, I'm just telling you information. Go and look it up and see why you're signing those things. I can't teach everything you need to know in order to do this process, but I want you to do this process. So go look up the things I'm telling you, and then you'll know why you're writing what you're writing and what I'm telling you to do. So underneath there, or you'll sign the date, and then the next line, the very last line on the paper, that's the only homework you have to do. What company do you want to audit? The first one I did was my old bank accounts that were closed, that were short-lived. Like I moved to Tennessee, I had a bank account there for 6 months, and then I moved back, so I closed the account. Those accounting, in my mind, I was thinking the IRS could account and audit those quicker because they're short-lived, not as many transactions went through. I figure I want them to audit whatever they can audit the fastest for me and recoup my money. Okay? So I did all my old bank accounts that have been closed first. I did the Ohio BMV second. $11.2 million plus, I mean, who wants that? You do?
That's a lot of cash.
That's a lot of money. And the state keeps it because we don't know. I have a Tennessee license. I have a Kentucky license. I did those too. Because they never shut our accounts down. They always keep drawing. Every court case, if you have not paid the tax assessment on it, that court case is still collecting money. Every fine, every speeding ticket, every court case, even marriage license courts and divorce courts, all of those court cases are worth lots and lots of money.
So who do you send to?
So you're going to put the address and name of whatever company you want to audit, have the IRS audit. You might have to look up online. The BMV is in Columbus. There's a P.O. box. You know, it's very easy to find these things. I do have an extensive 14-page list of companies in the Dropbox, but some of them are not on there. You may have to look them up yourself. Now, the next box says first date of employment. If you don't know, just leave it blank. These forms are so easy, you should never get stuck. If you don't know, leave it blank. It's better for you to say, I don't know what I'm doing, IRS, just do an audit for my account, and if I've done something wrong and in my accounting or my details, just correct it for me. If you need anything else from me, just contact me.
So when we fill these out for our employer, we're actually giving them the okay to draw from our trust. Like who we're working for now. Like, because you have to
Yep.
fill them out for your employer.
Right, so every company you've ever worked for, some of them will collect an insurance policy without your knowledge, and they will actually, from the date of your application, they will assess from that day all the way until you turn 75, and they will create an insurance policy and withdraw from your trust fund immediately upon hire. So if you have, so for the BMV, you would want to put the date that you turned 16 and went to the BMV for a permit or license application. If you don't know, you can put approximately 2002 or 1997 or however old. I can tell you Ohio BMV will not give it to you, so you can just leave it blank. If you want, you can contact them by the chat agent if you go online, or you can call them, and if they refuse, then you can actually write refused, and that will escalate the case. Because if they refuse, they're admitting they're hiding something, right?
Writing that where?
Right here on the last box, underneath. It's the EIN number. So if you can leave that blank, you can say I don't know, you can say refused, or you can put the EIN number in there. So that's this form. Does anybody have any questions on this form?
So you basically contact what the entity is and ask for EIN number. So what if it's the state of Kentucky? Would that be your old driver's license number?
The state of Kentucky, it won't be your driver's license number, the EIN, because the state of Kentucky will have an EIN with the state, the Secretary of State. And I've called them too, because since I have a Kentucky license, and they were so nice. I love Kentucky, that's where I'm from. They're like, honey, I don't know. I can't get anybody to find me that number. Why don't you call the Secretary of State? Here's the number. Ask them what our EIN is. I called the Secretary of State. They said, you know what? I've never had that question before. Hold on, let me see. And then she's like, I told her, anybody that I get on the phone, I educate them. If they're willing and open to listen, I tell them all about it. And if they listen, I keep telling them. You know? And she's like, wow, I've got a lot of research to do, and I'm going to ask somebody when they get back. So I've never been able to get an EIN for any BMV, child support. I mean, any of these major agencies, the worse they are, the more protected they are, the harder it is to find their EIN. So, anybody with any questions on that form?
So is there any Dropbox example of how you write our name?
Yes. Dropbox, the example, the highlighted, and the blank. Yes, got you covered. So next form is the 1040. This is just a reporting form. So the W-4 is a statement. The 1040 is a reporting form. And then your 1040V is your check or payment voucher. So one of the things about this that I really love is all these forms are printable. They're safe to use. It's not unlawful, illegal to use these forms. I know lots of other IRS forms that you can use for your benefit to make money, to recoup money, to pay for things, but those processes are a lot more involved. You have a lot more work to do, and they're not safe if you don't know what you're doing. This process is safe, lawful. You will recoup credits and recoup funds, and we will force the corporations to be lawful. How is that for a shift of financial power
Yeah, it is.
from all these corporations that are stealing, enslaving us, and pulling those funds back to where they belong, us?
The wealth of the righteous is stored up. The wealth of the sinners is stored up for the righteous. That's what the Bible says.
So 1040, all that is your information. So you're going to put your first name, your full middle name, your last name, social, address. That's it on that page 1. And then page 2, so simple. This form takes less than 2 minutes. You put your account number. If you want your recoupment or funds to be credited to you, you can put it in your checking or savings bank, so it'll ask for your routing and your checking or savings number. You'll just check checking or savings. If you're going to leave blank that 4C on the first page on W4, you're going to leave this blank as well. I like to highlight it. I just make it their job easy here. These are the lines I'm wanting. I want my money back. Fill them out. Give it back to me.
What line is that?
This is 35. Or this is 35A, and then on that W4, that's 4C. That will match on your W4. So the only other thing you want to do is put a date on it. You do not want to sign it. You just want to put the date. You're going to hold them accountable because you want them to do it immediately. You don't want to put, leave the date blank and they can push it out months if they want to. You want to put the date and leave the signature blank. Last form is a 1040V. You see how this is perforated? It looks like a check. Yes, please, give me checks. Give me lots and lots of money back. So give my social, first name, last name, address, city, state, zip. Super simple in the front. All these forms are in your Dropbox if you know how to use Dropbox, and if you don't, you can print the ones I gave you, and I've got a few extra packets if someone needs to take one home.
Why are you not putting the zip in the brackets?
Well, that's a whole nother teaching. Yeah. I don't want to confuse too much. I mean, the learning, Okay, so you're going to have your dotted line. I put here just for so you can see what the form, that's where the dotted line would be if you were to take that and fold it over. So this is your orientation. You're going to endorse it just like you do a check. You're going to put a 2-cent stamp. Your social security card, you're going to write your social without the dashes on the top. You're going to write the back of your social. There's a number in red normally. Sometimes it's another color, but most of the time it's red. It starts with a letter. You're going to put that number under, put that 2-cent stamp and endorse it, because you're going to sign your autograph across it by : first name, hyphen, middle name, : last name, period. So after you endorse that, you'll put the date underneath, and then you're done with the forms. Does that sound easy? I mean, truly, I've filled out these for somebody in 10 minutes. All 3 forms and a cover letter. Yes. See the back of his social? It has the front number and it has a back number, and it starts with the F. That may be in Atlanta, Georgia, or there's 12 Federal Reserve banks in the United States, and all of us have a letter that corresponds to which one our account is held in. Mine's in Chicago too. Now, the cover letter, so simple. Anytime you're writing to the IRS or anyone else for that matter, use writing. Use your handwritten if you can. I know it's easy, convenient to print out things and do typed letters. Sure, you can do that too. But when you sign it, make sure you sign enough that you're proving that you are a living woman or man. So the cover letter that I had, I've got 3 examples in the Dropbox. One of them is a handwritten, one of them is a typed with written at the bottom. You're just going to say, please audit this account immediately. I like the word immediately. And recoup all remittances and any funds owed to me. I really am not sure of these forms or how to do the accounting. If you need anything from me or if I did anything incorrectly, please contact me or correct it. Simple. Sincerely, done in good faith, all rights reserved, authorized representative, my autograph. Now I did put this in the Dropbox too, because this is where you're going to send your W-4 sandwich. The W-4 sandwich is the W-4, the 1040, the 1040V, and a cover letter. So you're going to put that all together in one packet, and you're going to mail it to the Department of the Treasury, Office of the Executive Secretary, 1500 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, room 3413. Because if you look on the IRS website and you start reading through, digging through all the forms and all the information and all the instructions, you'll find that that room number is a remittance office for the IRS. Those coupons that I was mentioning, that's called a remittance coupon. So we're going to get them to audit our accounts and give us our funds back. Washington, D.C. 20220. Yes, everything's on the Dropbox. You don't ever have to worry about notes right now. All this that I'm showing you is in the Dropbox. So I also included some free postage labels. This is just a format you can print out. You can print on white paper, cut them out, tape them to your envelopes, or you can get the Avery 5162 labels, 14 per page, and you. Now, who knows that there's 2 companies running out of the post office? There's 2 companies, the post office itself and the United States Postal Services are 2 different entities running out of the same building. When you walk into the post office, there's always a slot in the wall that says stamped letters. That is the post office drop. If you go to the counter, you're using the United States Postal Services, they will collect postage. These stamps, or these replacement 4 stamps, you have to put it in the post office. If you hand it to them, they will send it back to you and say, you owe $5.11 is due for postage. But these codes that are written on here include the law that has never went off the books of the post office, that once something is received, they are to mail it. They're not to give it back. If anybody takes it out of the blue box, imprisonment, 6 months minimum. They're not allowed to take and give that mail back once it's been received. I have had no problem using these priority envelopes, which are free inside the post office. They're laying there with labels, and these labels, they go on the priority, and this right here, it says Federal Agency Account Number or Postal Service Account Number. You can actually use your file number on your original birth certificate. That file number that they register you with on your original long form or a certified copy of your birth certificate, it will have a state number, like Kentucky's 116, and then it has your year, and sometimes it's the full 4-digit year, sometimes it's just the last 2 digits. Then it'll have a 5 or 6 digit number at the end. If you put that number right there in that box, you put it on your priority envelope, they charge your Cesta KV Trust Fund, and it will send for free.
How about for naturalized citizens? I have it.
You have that? And so you have a file number? Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know which one it is.
You know what? I've never seen one of these. It's probably, it's this one right here probably.
Is this the
You could
file
use that.
number? This is on the right.
Yep.
Can you use that?
You can try this one and see. If it doesn't work, they'll send it back to you.
Oh, mine just got this.
It should say, like, at the bottom, sometimes it's not all the numbers written together. It'll have file, maybe typed, and then it has written or typed in different. Let me see yours.
Oh, you see.
Oh, yeah, so it says birth number 134,
Okay, so.
and then it has the year, 68, and then it has the 6-digit number. That's the file number.
Okay.
Mhm. Sorry.
No. So it should be six.
Does anybody need another packet? Anybody messed up?
So
All the priority
Mine's.
boxes, envelopes have these in them as well. Okay, so you can also download this app on your, if you have a smartphone, you can download the USPS mobile app. And that way you can scan your own mailers. You can scan the priority mail from that label right here. You can just scan that. Or if you use certified stickers, same thing. You can scan them yourself. And then it has this button when you pull up the app, and it will just bring up your camera. You scan the form, and then it will show you where your package is, and it'll tell you when it's delivered. All right, so who can you assess tax on by using this W-4 process? Any corporation, any company, any person that has asked you for your social. Anybody that's treated you like an employee, you can use this process on. And guess what? If it's a corporation that is lawful and is not stealing, no harm, no foul. You just won't recoup any money and all is well. But if you assess and money's owed to you, it will be given back. One gentleman online that I talk to his daughter ever so often. She said that he filed 60 audits over 10 weeks ago. He has recouped over $95 million so far
Yay!
in 10 weeks. Now some of these come back as credits. So I'm not sure about how these funds are returned. Sometimes you may get a credit on your electric company for $20,000. So then you don't owe for the next 20 years. Or you may get a prepaid credit card that will be sent in the mail. One of the things they used this process on back 2020 when people were enforcing mask policies and enforcing all this stuff, when we are being forced by a policy, we are being treated like an employee. That means we can use that W-4, we can use our receipt from going to that store. If you have any receipts from 2020 that was forcing you to wear a mask, you write on it, mask policy, COVID-19. You staple that to your W-4. On that withholding, you can withhold $10,000 for wearing a mask. One visit to the store. Every receipt that you had for that store that you went in, you can assess them for $10,000 each of those receipts.
Costco, here I come.
Right? Amen.
Now, the lady that has been teaching a lot of this, she said when she visited this one store often, she just called him and said, "Hey, I'm putting you on notice. You're treating me like an employee by enforcing this policy to wear a mask. I will be assessing tax on you, $10,000 per visit. I just wanted to put you on notice so that you can think about that, so you may consider changing that policy." 5 days, they changed their policy.
Uber and Lyft.
Who has the power?
We do.
We
The
do.
people.
We the people.
Who can make changes?
We the people.
We the people. Who's going to make changes from here now?
We the people.
Every company listed on your credit report, paid, unpaid, charged off, you need to do a W-4 sandwich. Print out your credit report and assess and audit every single account. One of the guy's testimonies, one of the success stories online, this guy said he opened a line of credit. It was a guitar, over $5,000. 2 weeks after he filed his credit report and did W-4 sandwiches on some of them. He just highlighted which ones he wanted recouped and which ones he wanted audited. That guitar company in 2 weeks showed paid in full, all payments made, because they had obviously taken enough money to pay that off. So 2 weeks, his credit score started changing and that account showed paid in full. So some of these credit recoupments may come back as some of your accounts paid off, all payments made, your credit score goes up. Last night I was on the phone, I was telling some of my success stories, and this gentleman said his credit score has went up 153 points in 5 weeks. So, utilities, cell phone companies, Wi-Fi, cable, water, city, trash, electric, gas, all past providers. If it's an old account, you can go back and have them audit. Bank loans, auto loans, paid or unpaid, mortgage loans, past or new, Ohio BMV, DMV, if it's a different state, some of them are DMVs, credit bureaus. You can do a W-4 sandwich on each credit reporting agency. Courts, judges, prosecuting attorneys, anybody involved with a court case can be assessed. LexisNexis is another reporting company most people don't know about. Every 12 months you can order a free annual consumer report. I put the link in the Dropbox to make it easy to find. People go on these websites and say, I don't know where to find it. I made it super simple. You got to go on the Dropbox, find the link, order your consumer report today. It will take 7 to 10 days. They will send it through the mail. You will get your paperwork and a pen. You go online, you put the pen in, you can print it out. Mine was 96 pages. Has every place I've ever lived, every phone number I've ever used, every company that's ever used my social. So that is your roadmap. Everything listed on that LexisNexis report, you can do a W-4 for. I suggest you at least start with your credit report now. 30 days, your credit will change. Things will start changing. It may take up to 9 months to get recoupments. People see things change as early as 2 weeks. Now, about courts. We've already talked a little bit about courts. I actually had, my ex has been in the country for 24 years. He's been dealing with immigration and courts all the time I've known him. He just paid his last attorney $15,000. They just moved up his case to the 23rd of this month, which was just this past Thursday. And the lawyer was asking for all this stuff. I knew what I know, and I've been online researching enough. I went ahead and filed a form called the 15227 identity theft with the IRS. I faxed that on the 17th last week. I guess, yeah, it was last week. And that was, that's to freeze the social security number. Anybody can use that identity theft. And what it does is they will give you a PIN, and nobody can take anything from your Cesta AV trust fund without that PIN number. You can't open a new credit card. You can't open a new account. They will call you and ask you for that PIN, and it just makes your account safe. So guess what? If you lock your social security number and you go to court, how are they going to get any money? Remember I said the court is just a debt that needs to be paid, and the only way to pay debts is to have them discharged and accept it because there's no money. Well, I didn't say that, but there is no money. The only way we can pay debts is to have them discharged. So, in the courts, if you lock your social, they can't get any money. They're going to not want to have your case go through their court. Now, if you want it to be expedient, the other thing I did was I filed W-4s on the U.S. Court of Justice, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the actual immigration court in Cleveland, the county jail that locked him up and was holding him for deportation, and the judge himself. I filed a W-4, all those forms for each one of those, and on the withholding line, I assessed each of those for $250,000. That, when they receive it at the IRS, they send a tax assessment, and that payment is due in 10 days. Do you think that judge wants to pay $250,000 in 10 days? Or you think he's going to dismiss that court case? So Thursday, my ex showed up at court in Cleveland, 1 o'clock. He goes in to check into court. He gives them his license. They look it up. Oh, you're not in our system. Are you sure your court case is today? give me your A card. So he gave him his alien number. They should put it in. Oh, no, your case has been terminated.
How about that?
I only filed these last Friday. Overnighted to Washington Thursday. Only, what, a week later, 6 days later, terminated the case.
That's a good testimony.
His lawyer, he called. Hey, they terminated my case. Why didn't you tell me? I drove all the way to Cleveland. I have to drive all the way back home. He lives in Middletown. The lawyer's like, oh, yeah, they did. They terminated last minute this morning, and I was in a meeting. I forgot to call you. He's like, well, what happened? What happened? How they terminated? What did you file? What motion did you file? Oh, well, we've been sending stuff in. His lawyer was like,
No idea.
no idea. That's the power of this process. Now, will he get that money back? Will he get that $250,000 back from each of those babies? Because you know what? Those courts have used his social for 24 years, taking him, dragging him through courts. Every court case is money.
in their bank.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any repercussions of that?
Repercussions for what?
I mean, like for all the stuff you did and all the stuff you filed.
These are statements and reporting forms. We're not asking them to loan us money. We're not asking them to do anything illegal. These are all lawful forms that are printable. They're not even, you don't even have to order them from the IRS.
So I noticed that the state has holding on to all kinds of money from accounts that where
Go
people are-
unclaimed?
People that go unclaimed. Is this kind of the same thing as that?
Partially, they know people aren't going to claim it. If you shut down a license and they took out $11.2 million insurance policy on that driver's license and you moved out of the state and that license expired, that account's still open. They're not going to offer to give you that back. You haven't even closed the account. It's just an expired license. It's not a closed account.
that 11 million was never on my funds. Because I've checked that list and never did I see 11 million under my name.
That's right.
I
Now,
can tell you.
$11.2 million per man and woman on a marriage license as well. They take $11.2 million insurance policy on the man and woman of a marriage license because they're preparing for child support.
Wow.
So every time, this year alone, 14 million new men have been given child support cases to pay. 14 million new cases for this year alone. 66 cents from every dollar that's paid child support goes to the state. 66 cents from every dollar paid. Now, here's another testimony. There's another process. I'm not going to go into it now. We'll have to be another date, another time. But I used the 1099A as a payment. I had my ex fill that out to pay the rearage of his child support. He owed $107,000 some back to child support. I'm trying to lessen his burden and also get paid. So I had him do a 1099A, filled it out properly, had it submitted, called the bulk department of child support. There's a bulk payments department of Ohio, so I had him call, say, hey, I paid with the 1099A. I have the proof of receipt because the IRS sends you a copy B receipt that they are paying that bill for 107, whatever it was, 107,000. I'm wondering where my payment is. She said, let me check on it and I'll get back with you. They're supposed to get back with you in 72 hours or they're supposed to discharge that debt. She did not call back, of course. So he called again. I was with him when she finally returned the call, and she said, yeah, I see that you said, what date did you send that to the IRS? And I told her, May, whatever it was, 5th, 6th. She said, okay, well, to be honest, it's going to take 2 to 4 weeks to process that form. She knew exactly what that 1099A form was. She said, and then it's going to take at least 2 to 4 months for that deposit to be made, and then you will get a refund, and you will owe the taxes on the case, which is around $3,000. Now, did you hear me say that she said he was going to get a refund from paying child support?
Wow.
What did that 1099A do? It triggered an audit. And I did the W-4 sandwich on my side of things for child support because I want to know what the state has stolen from my kids. And The lawful term for kids is offspring. If you go into court and you call them children, you're in their jurisdiction. But if you use the word offspring, the judge won't know what to say. Just another tip. All right, so immediate action. There's so many things you can do to empower yourselves. First of all, I hope you go and teach 100 people in the next 2 weeks this process. I will come back and do classes wherever they let me. I am not in this for the money. I'm in this to take the corporations' power away that are corrupt and are stealing and are causing our citizens, our people, our men and women to be slaves. And we need to take the power back from them and collapse them from the inside, and then make this shift of power and give the people the abundance that God intended us to all have as stewards and trustees of His land. So that's my goal. I hope it's your goal too. And immediate action, there's a lot of things we need to teach. Get authenticated. You can take your birth certificate. You can do a process. There's a guy doing a class on Tuesday. It's out in Richmond, Indiana, but he's going to be doing classes online too to get authenticated.
We're at in Richmond.
It's at the Gateway Church. The locking your social security by faxing that 15227 identity theft, that will help the audit process go faster because you're going to lock it. So that form is also in the Dropbox. We also have if you want to know how much money has gone through your social and how much money you're worth, you can also use this other form I put in the Dropbox. It's a 4506T. I have filled it out. I have put it in the Dropbox so you know exactly what to put, exactly what I put on my form, and you just fax it in. Within 10 days, they're supposed to send you the billions of dollars shown that's went through your account. So you can also get a new passport and get on the do not detain list. I have done this. It's a video. I have the link in the Dropbox. You look at the video, you fill out a passport form correctly because you do not check that you're a U.S. citizen. You check that you are not a U.S. citizen, you check that your mom is not a U.S. citizen, and you check your dad is not a U.S. citizen. Because a U.S. citizen, by definition, is someone who was born and lives in Washington, D.C., that 10 square mile of D.C. Now, if you are filling out forms and saying you're a U.S. citizen, you're lying, unless you actually were born in Washington, D.C. So we are committing fraud on these forms because we don't know. Sit in sin. Sit in sin. Sit in sinship. Citizenship. Sit in sin. Ship. Currency. We are the current of the sea. It's admiralty law. It's land, air, water law. Land, air, water. Air being the highest. If you're in the water, birth from your mother's waters, received at by the doctor, all this language entraps us. Citizenship, sit in sin. We do not want to sit in sin. We know we have a Redeemer. We know we have a Savior. There's ways to get out of this, out of Babylon, out of the world. Be not conformed to the world. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye will know what is good and true. So we are all treasure hunting together. We want our money from the treasury, and we're going to dig through these forms, and we're going to read the IRS forms, and we're going to do these paperwork, and we're going to find the treasure, and we're going to bring it back to where it belongs. So study. There's a book called Meet Your Straw Man. If you don't know about the Sesta KV Trust, read that book. It's $5 on Amazon. It's called Meet Your Straw Man. It will tell you so many tips, especially like getting pulled over, what you say to the officer, what you don't say, what you write on your license, so that you will not get fined. If you do get a speeding ticket, it's literally a 10-cent stamp will take care of that ticket. Stamps that are money stamps, not the forever U.S. Postal Service stamps, but the valuable 2 cent, 1 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, those are actually backed by real money. So you go to the courthouse, the court clerks, you say, I want a certified copy of my case. You take it, you put a 10-cent stamp, you sign over it, you sign as a beneficiary, you send it back. That will take care of the taxes of your case, and case will be closed. Those other things I'm not going to go into. We have lots of inner noise in our aura. We have lots of energy that blocks us from seeing clearly. Some of the things I want the church to learn and teach is character development and virtue, because what I've seen in all my audiences is they have the love, they have the light of God, they need the willpower strengthened. People in the church that I have seen, people that I've been in teaching in front of, a lot of people are afraid, and fear stops them in their tracks. And so they don't have that willpower strong within them. So to empower and to get the will aspect stronger within ourselves, we have to look at our character so that we can be entrusted with more power. So every day you're focusing on a virtue. First suggestion is loving kindness through thoughts, words, and deeds. So every thought that comes out of your mind, every word that comes out of your mouth has to be loving, has to be kind. It's very easy to get sucked into the criticism and the division that's going on. But as a leader and as a trustee of God, we have to work on our character. So loving kindness with our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And every day you can go through and say, okay, all the ways I've been loving and kind today. How have I been generous and loving, and what have I done to help others? And congratulate yourself. I am a being of love. I do have the divine love, the image of God within me. I do have that love aspect that God gave me in this temple, and I'm going to utilize it more and more and more. And then look at your mistakes and say, okay, I wasn't as loving, I wasn't as kind when I had this conversation, and oh, I said something about this person. And what we say doesn't just dirty the body, it dirties the soul. And that prevents us from God trusting us with power. So if we are more loving and more kind in all of our actions and thoughts, we will be entrusted with more power.
Amen.
You know how when someone gets angry and they get in a rage and they're like, man, I just lost it on that person today. What did they lose? Why do people say they lost it?
I lost a lot.
They lost the opportunity to have that emotional control and to show that they can be trusted with power. So if we all work on our character, we all work on our virtue, we can have more empowerments. One of the prayers that is the most empowering is the Lord's Prayer. People don't realize, if you can see energy, some people can't see energy, most people can't. I couldn't when I grew up. I didn't see anything. As I started learning and teaching healing, I started seeing energy around people. Most people look like clouds. They walk around with all this muddiness and they literally look like a cloud walking around. All the heaviness of life, all the news being, transmitting all that negativity, they walk around with that heaviness of the heavy of heart. But if you just liberate that, let God create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. It's one of my favorite little songs I'm always singing. So
Psalm 51:10.
that's right. So all these energies, people don't realize unless you see, but they're actually the same with people. Like, this is smoking elementals, this is addiction to alcohol, this is anger, this is love and generosity and happiness and greed. All these energies look the same. They're sometimes bigger or smaller in people's auras, but that's what they look like. Back to the intelligent evaluation, you don't have to believe anything I say, just pointing out. You see the bottom of the aura, how the feet are the dirtiest?
Yeah.
There was a reason that Jesus said, if you don't let me wash your feet, you can have no part of me. The bottom of our aura is the dirtiest, and when we wash with holy water, asking God to clean us up, then Jesus can fill all the way down to the bottom of our feet. He said, I have to leave so I can pour myself into you, so I can give a portion of myself to you. I can't stay. I have to leave. That way you will have a way. So that's that. But the Lord's Prayer, if you don't mind, we'll go through it. Just relax. Put your hands down if you want. Do you want empowerment from God? If you're okay with doing the Lord's Prayer, I'll just lead you through a short prayer. And we'll go through each. Because this prayer, I know a lot of people don't believe in energy centers, but these have been proven scientifically. The The Heart Math Institute, they've proven that there's a vortex around the heart that exists. That's how EKGs work at the hospital. They measure the energy going through the heart. This is real whether you know it or see it or believe it or not. So these centers, each one activates with a stanza of the Lord's Prayer. So if you focus on top of your head, Our Father, we are all children of God. Let us all recognize each other as children of the Most High. The kings that Jesus talked about, He is the King of. We are all children of God, our Father. Focus on your forehead, who art in heaven. Heaven gives us access to the inner world, where peace and the state of heaven is many different levels of heaven. The 12 foundations that Revelation talks about. Now focus between your eyes and your throat. Holy be thy name. Let whatever comes out of my mouth and my mind be holy. Be good. If what comes out of my mind and my mouth is good, everything returning to me will be good. Holy be thy name. Focus on the heart now. Thy kingdom come. It is in giving that we receive. It is in sharing. It is in loving. It is in being kind and generous that we inherit the kingdom. Focus right here on the solar plexus. Thy will be done. Let the will of my soul be aligned and connected to the will of God. Thy will be done. And then on the navel, on earth as it is in heaven. Lord, help us to bring heaven to earth. Let us bring heaven here and be able to pull your qualities into our lives fully and reach the heavenly peace that you offer every single day, every single moment. On earth as it is in heaven. And then the spleen over here. Give us this day our daily bread. And then behind the low back, behind your navel, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. If there's any person in your life that you need to forgive, including yourself, just think of that person and say, Lord, help me forgive. And forgive me for my trespasses. And focus on your heart and then up to your crown and give it to God. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory. And then back up to the crown. Forever. Amen. So it only takes 5 minutes. Helps with remembering your character. Helps empowering you. So every time that you say this at church now, some of the churches I go to, they do it every Sunday. Just focus a little bit of extra attention and know that God is giving you the empowerment. He said this is how to pray. He gave his disciples the keys to the kingdom. It's hard to find those keys now. A lot of these teachings have been lost. A lot of people have been so conditioned to be afraid of anything they see that looks like Eastern religions or Eastern teachings or esoteric stuff, because they have inverted and stolen what God intended for us.
One last question for you, Felicia. So I recorded this video, which I plan to push on